Welcome back to this new monthly series on the channel where I'll be reviewing and kind of giving my recommendations on the top 5 most popular anime on Crunchyroll at the time of recording. This series is by all means a work in progress, so please let me know down below. If you hate it, tell me how I can improve it. It would mean a lot. I want to make this series as good as I possibly can. With that being said, let's just hop into it. Number 1, Jujutsu Kaisen. An expected repeat from last month's list. Watch that video if you want a bit more of a recap, but this month, there may actually be a change to my recommendation. Not because of the quality of the anime, I still think it's fantastic. The part that's getting animated right now is one of my favorite arcs in all of manga. And everything from the music, the voice acting to the animation is top tier. However, with how Studio Mappa supposedly treat their employees and the unethical conditions they work under, I don't know if I want to recommend this anime right now. I'm going to leave this recommendation blank for now, but just know that the people who put the work in have done and are doing a phenomenal job. But the people who profit off it don't give a fuck about their employees, so do some research and decide for yourself if you want to watch the show or not. I mean, you could always pirate it. Speaking of pirates, number 2, One Piece. Okay, to avoid sounding like a broken record, and because One Piece is going to be on this list every month, I'll keep it short. Again, go watch last month's video if you want slightly more of a recap on what One Piece is. The Wano arc, which is one of the longest arcs in anime history at just under 5 years, just finished. And we're about to get into supposedly the final huge arc of One Piece, which is still ongoing in the manga. I do not recommend you watch this because it's over 1,000 episodes. How can I recommend that? I recommend reading the manga, however, because it's a lot quicker, and I do think One Piece is a fantastic story that's deserving of your time. Moving on. It's gonna get tiring to do every month. Number 3, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. Possibly my favorite first episode I've ever seen in an anime. I read the first 3 chapters of the manga before I watched this, so I knew what to expect and was prepared to love the first episode. And it did not disappoint. The story begins at the end of a 10-year adventure where a party of adventurers, which includes our main character, the long-living elf mage Frieren, are celebrated for defeating the Demon King. As the group part ways and decades pass, Frieren has to experience true loss for perhaps the first time in her life, as her old companions pass on, whereas she remains unchanged. Frieren then does something she never does, takes on an apprentice, after one of her deceased companions asks her to look after the young girl Fern. This is the beginning of my understanding as to why the story is called Beyond Journey's End. After over 70 years since her 10-year adventure to defeat the Demon King, the influence one of her companions from that journey, Himo the hero, had on her during their time together is finally starting to take root, and her memories of him, along with her new responsibility as Fern's teacher, force Frieren's personality to open up beyond the stoic and emotionless front she's used to putting up. This show has the perfect mix of happy and sad. It's something you have to watch to understand, but I'll do my best to explain what I mean. Frieren, being immortal and always traveling alone, then having to watch her friends grow old and die in what feels like the blink of an eye to her, is sad. But watching her relationship with all of the characters, both her old companions and her new ones, and how she's changing to be more open to others, leaves me feeling happy. It's a very peaceful first couple episodes with not a lot of music playing over the dialogue, and I could see some people finding it somewhat boring, but it wasn't dull to me. The sound effects of nature and the world in general made it a relaxing watch, and I have to say, they cast Frieren perfectly. Atsumi Tanezaki's soothing voice is a perfect fit for the character. But when the music does play, it's phenomenal. It fits the tone perfectly, the animation is very smooth, and each character beyond Frieren is interesting in their own right. Overall, I would highly recommend you watch this show right now. It's only 13 episodes, trust me. By the end, you'll be wishing there was more. Even though I'm only 6 episodes in myself. Number 4, Goblin Slayer, or as they call him in the show,
Goblin Slayer.
I'm not gonna lie to you, compared to Frieren's first episode, the first 5 to 10 minutes of the first episode here had me yawning. Which made it all the more badass when Goblin Slayer showed up and started ruthlessly slaughtering goblins. And not just the men, but the women. And the children too. They're animals. And I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them. The plot of this show is extremely simple. Goblin Slayer lives near a town where there is an adventurers guild, and the only quests he accepts are the ones that involve slaying goblins. You following along so far?
Oh.
He is a man of few words, extremely stoic, and can be brutally honest, which comes off as insensitive at times, though you can tell that he's a decent man at heart, with some trauma that forced him to put up a steel wall around his feelings. The priestess, whose life he saved on her first adventure, becomes particularly attached to Goblin Slayer, and manages to slowly chip away at this steel wall, as he begins to show a bit more emotion as the show goes on, thanks in large part to her. The elf, dwarf, and lizard man that later joined them on their adventures also play a part in helping him open up. But as characters, I don't find them all too interesting, as I have no real interest in their backstory. Still, they're not unlikable characters. The main draw of this show, beyond Goblin Slayer himself, is the show's willingness to display gruesome acts. Goblins are vile creatures in this world, and the show isn't afraid to show them performing vile acts, such as rape, and the killing isn't as censored as it is in other anime of this genre, which is nice to see. Not that it's nice to see rape. I've watched the entire first season plus the movie, and after all that, I would recommend watching Goblin Slayer. I would say if after the first 2 to 3 episodes you aren't into it, drop it. It's not something that seems like it's going to build up to a deeper story. What you see is what you get. And what you get is goblin killing. Number 5. Shangri-La Frontier. High schooler Rakuro Hizutome lives in a world where VR games are actually good. Imagine that. Though he makes it a goal of his to seek out all the trash VR games and complete them. These people are called freaks, I believe. Though one day, his local game store owner convinces him to try something different. Like, actually a good game. So, he's convinced to try out the most popular game in the world, Shangri-La Frontier, and creates this half-naked character with a bird mask. Don't ask. Sunraku, as he calls himself, starts the game as you would any other RPG. Fights some monsters, levels up, farms materials, buys equipment. If you've played any RPG open world type video games, you can appreciate some of the little gags and frustrations the main character goes through. The game world is filled with both NPCs and real people's created characters, but even the NPCs in the world are realistic and can hold actual dynamic conversations. The story in the game is... well, I don't actually know what the story is. All Sunraku cares about is defeating one of the 7 unique monsters in the game world that nobody has been able to defeat since the game launched over a year ago. Another mini side story is his schoolmate, Rei Saiga, that has a crush on Hizutome in real life, and is trying to find him in the game world with her super leveled up character, in order to develop some sort of relationship with him. Sunraku as our main character is interesting enough, his voice actor is very good, but on his own he doesn't do quite enough to carry the show for me. Though once his first companion is introduced, this cute rabbit named Emul, the show gets livelier, and Emul is just adorable, so it's easy to watch from then on. Little side note, I'm someone who's into intros, so if you're like me, I'm happy to say that the intro to the show is very good. It's got a rock vibe that kinda hypes you up to watch the episode. Overall, I would recommend giving this show a shot. If you're into RPGs especially, you can appreciate it a little more. There seems to be a deeper story here, however, that after only watching 5 episodes, I've not yet fully delved into, so there's potential for it to get even better. So there you have it, those are the top 5 most popular anime on Crunchyroll. If you have any recommendations on how I can make this series better, because I do want to make this a monthly thing, please let me know. I know it can be improved. I'm trying to find ways myself to how to improve it, but your feedback would be instrumental in that. With that being said, if you made it this far, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. Take it easy, and peace.